He lived alone at the edge of the forest. His cabin was small, made of wood and stone. The trees pressed close around it, as if they wanted to hide him from the world. He liked it that way. He liked the silence. He liked the simplicity. His life had always been quiet, predictable and uneventful, until the day the hatchling appeared. It was a morning like any other. He had just finished his breakfast, a bowl of stew and a cup of thick black coffee. The wind carried the smell of pine and damp earth into the cabin. He opened the door to get more firewood and froze. On his doorstep sat a small dragon hatchling. Its scales shimmered like melted emeralds, eyes bright as polished amber. Its wings were folded neatly at its sides. It was no bigger than a fox. Yet there was something in its gaze that made him feel both fear and awe. The dragon tilted its head. It did not roar. It did not hiss. It simply stared at him. He swallowed hard and stepped back. "I think you're lost," he said. His voice sounded strange even to him. It was shaky and uncertain. The hatchling chirped softly. Its tiny tail flicked back and forth. He could feel it, a strange warmth in his chest. Something like recognition, something like destiny. He knelt down. "Where did you come from?" he whispered. The hatchling blinked. It let out a high-pitched trill. It crawled closer to him, wings still folded, eyes locked on his. He had read stories of dragons, ancient creatures of power and wisdom, creatures that chose their human companions, creatures that formed bonds that lasted lifetimes. He never believed such things. Not really. But now, faced with this tiny being, he wondered. He reached out a hand. The hatchling sniffed it and then pressed its forehead against his palm. A shiver ran up his spine. It was soft, almost electric. He gasped. The dragon chirped again, louder this time, almost like a laugh. He could not explain it. He could not name it. But in that moment, he knew. The hatchling had chosen him. Long ago, it had chosen him. And somehow, he had been waiting for this moment without knowing it. Days passed. The hatchling, whom he named Ember, would not leave his side. It followed him everywhere. It ate small portions of food he offered, yet it seemed to draw energy from him as much as from the stew he prepared. It slept at the foot of his bed, a tiny warm bundle that glowed faintly in the moonlight. He discovered he could understand Ember, not in words, but in feelings. When it was hungry, it nudged him. When it was happy, it chirped and fluttered its wings. When it was afraid, it shivered and pressed close to him. He began to sense the world through its eyes, and in return, it seemed to sense the depths of his own heart. One evening, a storm rolled over the forest. Lightning split the sky, thunder shaking the ground. Ember whimpered for the first time. Its tiny body shook with fear. He held it close, whispering reassurances, rocking it like a child. And then, something extraordinary happened. Ember's scales glowed. A warm light radiated from it, filling the cabin. He felt the energy wrap around him, comforting and fierce. The storm outside seemed to pause, the wind stilling, the rain hesitating. It was as if the hatchling, small and fragile, was bending the world to protect him. That night, he slept with Ember tucked under his arm. He dreamed of dragons soaring through endless skies, of mountains that touched the stars, of fires that could melt stone. He woke with a start. Ember was watching him, eyes bright, wings twitching. He realized something. Ember was not just a companion. Ember was a teacher. Ember would change his life forever. Weeks turned into months. He learned to care for Ember, and Ember learned to trust him. They hunted together, explored the forest, and shared quiet moments by the fire. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. He spoke less and listened more. Ember seemed to understand his thoughts even before he could form them. Then came the first test. One morning, while gathering herbs near the river, he spotted a shadow moving through the trees. He froze. The shadow was too large, too deliberate. It was a predator, a creature of the forest that hunted both man and dragon. Ember hissed, spreading its tiny wings, scales bristling. The predator lunged. Ember darted in front of him, small but fierce. Its roar, though tiny, carried an echo that rattled the forest. The predator faltered. Ember's eyes glowed brighter. The predator hesitated. And then, in a blur of motion, Ember leapt and struck. The predator yelped and fled. Ember landed on his shoulder, puffing out smoke and looking proud. He laughed, relief flooding him. "You saved me," he said. Ember chirped, pressing its head against his cheek. He realized then that he was no longer the man who lived alone in the forest. He was part of something greater, something powerful and ancient. He was a chosen companion, a human worthy of a dragon's trust. Time passed. Ember grew, slowly at first, then with sudden bursts. Its wings stretched, scales thickened, claws sharpened. It was no longer a hatchling, but a young dragon, still small by ancient standards, but mighty in its presence. The forests seemed to bend around them, animals keeping distance, the air alive with magic. One day, strangers came, humans with weapons, hunters seeking dragons. They saw Ember and drew their rifles. He raised his hands. "Wait," he shouted. "You don't understand." But they did not listen. They aimed, ready to strike. Ember's body glowed with an intense light. It leaped, claws and tail moving in a blur. The hunters fled, some falling into the river, others tripping over roots. He ran after them, heart pounding. Ember landed beside him, scales shimmering, eyes warm. "You're mine," he whispered. Ember chirped, nudging his shoulder. He knew the dragon felt the same. They were bound, chosen, inseparable. The years that followed were filled with adventure. They traveled beyond the forest, beyond the mountains, beyond the lands humans knew. They encountered creatures of legend, crossed rivers of molten gold, and skies that burned with stars. He learned to ride Ember, soaring through clouds, feeling the wind rush past him, yet, through all the adventures, the forest remained their home. Their bond remained unbroken. He would never forget the morning Ember first appeared at his door. He would never forget the choice made long ago, the choice that had changed both their destinies. One evening, as they watched the sun set behind the mountains, Ember curled against him. He stroked its scales, feeling the warmth and the strength that had grown from a tiny hatchling into a dragon of power. "You chose me," he said softly, "and I will always choose you." Ember chirped, and for a moment the world seemed still. The trees whispered, the wind hummed, and the bond between human and dragon shone brighter than the setting sun. He realized then that life was never meant to be ordinary. It was meant to be extraordinary. It was meant to be shared with someone who saw you, who chose you, who made you more than you could ever be alone. And in the quiet of the forest, with Ember at his side, he finally understood. He had been chosen long before he knew it. And now, together, They would write their own legend. The forest was no longer quiet. It hummed with life, with magic, with promise. And at the heart of it, a man and a dragon stood together, ready for whatever the universe had in store. Because some bonds are not made by chance. They are made by choice. And some creatures choose their humans. Just as he had been chosen, so too would he choose for the rest of their days. Asterisk,